I'd like to introduce you, Dennys Montaño. He's currently the director of COPOL, English Institute, COPEI. He has over 21 years of experience in the field of English language education. He has 2 degrees in business administration, 2 postgraduate diplomas in education, and a master's degree in curriculum design. He has been a consultant for the Ecuadorian Ministry of Education and an English professor in different Ecuadorian universities, including Yachay Tech. So please, let's welcome Dennys Montaño with a warm round of applause.
Thank you very much. Can everyone listen to me? Yes? Perfect. Thank you. First, before we begin, I have put the RQ code or the QR code on the presentation. So if you have a RQ or QR scanner, you can just download the presentation from the internet. You don't need to copy anything or take pictures. You can just directly download it by using an app from iOS or the Samsung App Store and get it down from there. Okay, you scan it and download the whole presentation to your computer or Google Drive or wherever you put all the information. Okay, at the end of the presentation, I will also give you time to do it. If you want to follow it directly from your cell phones or your tablets, you can just do it with the QR code, okay? So, what is the topic for today? Well, we're going to talk about the coach approach to school leadership. Effective techniques for school transformation. That means that if you're sitting in this room today, you're either an educational leader, it means a principal, a director, a supervisor, or a coordinator, or you're a teacher that someday expect to be a leader in education. Okay? These topics that we're looking at here, coach approach to school leadership, is something that basically has not been related until recent years. Instructional coaching has started over the last years into a boom in which some schools have been working on in order to improve or achieve the goals that every institution has set. But having leaders to coach is a totally different view. This presentation is based on a book that I have read from 3 American authors. It's kind of weird because they met on Twitter. They have been working on coaching as leaders for a long time. They have been doing research on this because it's not something, as a term, it's something very new. This is a 2017 book. So you can imagine how new this type of research is. And I liked it when I started reading about them. And they have posted some things on Twitter. They got together, they made comments, they became friends, and they wrote a book without meeting each other. And from that book, I have based this presentation. And of course, in my experience over the years on teaching and leading educational institutions from schools, high schools, universities, and now in the English Academy that I'm working on. So, here comes the first question. Talking about educational leaders. What are they? What is their function inside classrooms? What is their main goal or objective? How do you see these leaders? What do they have to do? Who can answer these questions? Come on. What is the function of a principal or a director, an English director, or an English coordinator, or a supervisor in an institution? What are they? Are they judge, evaluators, groundskeeper, captains? What are they? Please?
They are people in charge of motivating the staff and taking into account what are the positive strengths or the strengths that the team has got to work and to give elements or basic materials
you very much. Yes, excuse me, what's her name?
Giovanna.
Giovanna has said many good definitions about what a leader's functions are. And yes, well, they're responsible for leading the institution, but they should not be the only ones giving ideas, which is a very good point in that part, or in that definition. So here we have some things that sometimes leaders, when I use educational leaders, it's because in schools they're called principals, in universities they're called rectores, so there are many terms, okay? It could be a director, it could be a coordinator, so I use educational leaders. But and sometimes we have had them as judge and evaluators, as groundskeepers, captains, fans, promoters, managers, cheerleaders, physical therapists, forecasters, owners. Sometimes these educational leaders are the owners of the institution. Especially in our Latin American countries, that's very common, okay, in private institutions. But we're going to go deep into this and see what is actually the role of educational leader. But before starting talking about that, we're going to see one of the biggest research and surveys that has been done in the United States by MetLife. Okay, this is a 2013 research. It hasn't been a newer one or an update on this, but a lot of books and a lot of research from different people have been based on these results. And what do we have here? The job of a principal is becoming more complex and stressful. Why? These are real percentages based on thousands of teachers in the United States. 3/4, that means 75% of teachers feel the job has become too complex. 7 in 10, which means 69% of principals say the job responsibilities are not very similar to the ones that they had 5 years ago. Job satisfaction among principals has decreased 9 percentage points in less than 5 years, to 59% very satisfied from 68% very satisfied in 2008. It went down from 68 to 59. Half, which is 48% of principals, feel under great stress several days a week. Only about 4 in 10 principals say they have a great deal of control over curriculum and instruction, 42%. And making decisions about removing teachers, 43%. Let me go back to this. These are real numbers. And why do we have these right now going on? Well, part of this problem actually has been the ministries of education, the districts, and the people in charge of policy making and in charge of education. In Ecuador, we went through a very huge process back in 2010, which caused a revolution in the English area. All of a sudden, the government came and said, okay, everyone here has to give or show 2 things. First one, that you know English. So you have to present a certificate, an international certificate, that says that if you're teaching school or high school, you need to be minimum a B2. And if you're teaching university, you need to be a C1. Besides that, you need also to have a degree in education. Either you went to the university to become a teacher, or if you were studying something else and then you ended up being a teacher, you needed a master's degree in education that supported those years of experience that you had. And they gave us 5 years for that. So you had 5 years to achieve all those goals. The due date was 2015. So you can imagine how this went. People thought, okay, this is not going to happen. And one of the problems, and I think you guys are going through the same, because I saw strike yesterday. It was a protest in front of one of the buildings in downtown of teachers shouting and screaming because of the Ministry of Education in Peru trying to copy what the Ministry of Education in Ecuador did 7 years ago. And basically, the problem was that we had students studying for 12 years, finishing school and high school, and not speaking English. Something was going on there. And what was going on is that teachers like me that learned English because I live in the States, but did not have a teaching degree because I had a degree in business administration, but I loved what I was doing. So I knew English, but I did not have the teaching degree. And then we had other teachers that actually had the degree in education, but did not know English. So it was a paradox. And somehow the government invested money on this and started sending teachers to the United States and England to study English. At the beginning, this program was called Go Teachers. And then they start paying master's degree to teachers to study. Basically was at Kansas State University. There were a couple more. And they also sent some to England to study. Well, this was a long process. It took time. It's giving results right now. But they also changed the curriculum. And the curriculum wasn't changed progressively. It was just changed. So now they believe that in order to achieve goals, you needed to fulfill a whole bunch of paperwork. Teachers today in Ecuador are doing more paperwork than teaching. That's the reality. So why investing millions of dollars in sending teachers to prepare themselves in the United States or England if at the end they're not teaching because they're wasting, I know that's not the word, but they're wasting their time on paperwork. It's a lot of planning. There's a lot of formats that they have to design and develop and go on, and portfolios that they have to fulfill. It's crazy. And if imagine the teachers are going through this, how do you think that the principals are doing? It's a chain of events. So basically, this is the reality, okay? This is what's going on. And, but principals and teachers also have similar views on academic challenges, but of course they diverge somewhat on their priorities for leadership. Here we have some more statistics about this. And majority of educators say implementing the Common Core state standards, 67% of principals, 59% of teachers. This is what they believe. Creating and maintaining an academically rigorous environment, 64%, 62% of teachers. So they're almost there, okay? What they believe should be done in percentages is there. 85% one group, 84% the other group. So basically, teachers are most likely to say it is very important for a principal to have been a classroom teacher, 79%. This is something important. How many leaders do I have here right now? Between principals, directors, coordinators, or supervisors? Can you please raise your hand so I can know? Okay, great. The rest are teachers. Okay? Well, teachers, this is an American thing, believe that to become an educational leader, you should have been a teacher before. 79% of the teachers believe that. I have been a teacher for 21 years. I'm a director, but I'm still teaching. I don't want to, leave that behind because I feel refreshed when I do it. I still feel that I can teach and that my students like what I do. So 75% of those teachers believe that to be a great educational leader, you should have been a teacher before, have the experience. Because there are also people who study to do this and they become leaders without being in the classroom ever in their lives. And give less importance to leading the development of strong teaching capacity across the school, 69%, and using data about student performance to improve instruction, 53%. Today we're not going to be talking about technical stuff, because we have heard about that in every single presentation, every single plenary or events that we have gone. We're going to be looking at something different, okay? And changing the view. And I know it's going to be difficult because it requires a lot of time. It requires a lot of patience. But leaders who have been doing this have gained results. And that's the good part. That's what we're looking for. So, John Haiti, which is an Australian researcher, in 2009 made this research about the effect size of making change. Do you guys know that not doing anything, it means that just continuing leading as you are right now without changing anything gives you a 0.40% of improvement in your students. Okay? A 0.40. Not doing anything, just being there, doing your paperwork, having everyone try to do whatever they're doing, it's 0.40%. John Haiti made this research, and some other researchers later they got really amazed of the results. And one of the problems here is the following. We have three types of leadership: transformational, instructional, and learning. Look at the numbers. 0.40 is not doing anything. Just letting the school do whatever they're doing. Letting supervisors work how they're working, teachers do what they have to do inside class. Not implementing anything gives you 0.40% of change. This is transformational leadership. In the research they have made, by implementing a transformation leadership style, the only thing you get is lower than 0.20. Even less than not doing anything. An instructional one, instructional coaching by itself, just sending instructional coaches inside the class to do their work, but not supporting or everyone working as a team to reach goals, actually gives you a 0.42%, a little bit more than not doing anything. And then the learning leadership, which is what we're going to be talking today, coaching, actually gives you around 0.88% of transformation inside class. But what is this? The transformation leadership inspires teachers to new levels of energy and commitment to reach ambitious goals. On words, it looks fantastic, but what happens? Basically, we motivate teachers to do stuff. We tell them, we make them get all this energy and commitment for doing all these activities, but at the end, we don't support them. There's no feedback on what they're doing. And it ends up being the same as not doing anything. The next one is instructional leadership. Attend to the quality and impact of all in the school and student learning, ensuring that disruption to learning is minimized. One of the problems with this is basically that everything is based on trying to get better learner outcomes. It's based on the students' final results, which actually is the goal, of course. But when we have instructional coaches going into classrooms, if as principals or directors, we just pay them to go in there and do their work, that is not going to assure that you will get the final results. If there's no culture of everyone working together, that's not going to happen. And the last one is the learning leadership, which is the one we're going to be talking today. Emphasizes in student and adult learning. Everyone will be involved in learning. Not only students, not only teachers, but also leaders. And of course, by providing coaching, but not coaching because this is what everyone is doing. No, this is coaching for over an extended period of time, forming data teams, working collaboratively to plan and monitor lessons. So, John Hailey also stated this: leaders must view themselves as activators rather than mere facilitators of learning. This is something that we have been hearing a lot. We are facilitators as teachers, we are facilitators. Okay, he says that it's not like that. Unlike facilitating learning, activating learning requires the teacher or coach to support change and to support growth and demonstrate at the end the effect of these learning experiences on student and teacher outcomes. Not only student, like in the instructional one, also teacher outcomes. So now we're actually going to talk about coaching for leaders. And these are the 3 types of leaders we have. And we set ourselves in one of these 3 positions. Leaders as a judge, as a team captain, or as a coach. At the end, we will probably have to switch from one to the other and find a balance between them. But the research that has been done in the United States in this particular year, in 2017, which began 4 years ago, 3 years ago, is based on doing this. Putting on your coach hat. But what is being a principal as a judge? And here we have these pictures. Who can probably highlight? What do you think about a principal as a judge? By looking at the pictures. It says, oh yeah, you don't fit the standard, no raise for your teacher next year. Okay, principal, make teacher evaluations today, next, A, next, whatever, okay? So, educational leader as a judge, what do you think he normally does, or he bases his leadership on? Come on, share your ideas. It doesn't matter if, there's always a right answer. Different points of view, right answers. Please, and then you guess.
Maybe literally judging instead of doing something to change something that he wants to improve.
Okay, judging. Okay, please.
Yeah, so he's just basing his leadership on one thing, like on one. He's just basing his leadership on one criteria instead of a lot of different.
What is that criteria? Excuse me, what's her name?
Roseanne.
Roxanne. Okay.
Roseanne.
What is that criteria?
What is that criteria? Whether they meet the standard or not?
Thank you.
Is that standard?
Yes. So, the principles that base the leadership as judges, actually what they're doing is basing everything on formal district evaluation protocols. And this means if you're a principal in a public institution, you will have to follow standards. They will tell you how many times a year you have to evaluate teachers. If it's 1 or 2 times a year, or 1 per trimester or semester, I don't know exactly how we're working in Peru. In Ecuador, in high school is semesters, every 5 months. Okay? Before it was trimesters, every 3 months. And well, universities are semesters, and that's everywhere. So they base their criteria or everything related to leading the institution on this. Okay? Formal district evaluation protocols. And what else? Technical measurements to assess teacher effectiveness. And focus on high expectations. Now, what is the problem with this? Most of the time, who has been evaluated here by your principal or by a coordinator or supervisor? I think everyone. Raise your hand if you have been evaluated sometime. Okay? Yes. Who has received feedback from that? Okay, not everyone raised their hand. Now, that's the problem. Okay? You cannot base your leadership on this just by fulfilling what the government, the Ministry of Education, the district, or whoever is in charge is telling you to do. That's not going to transform education in your institution. And it's sad because you see them and teachers see them as not as leaders, just as people who are doing what the ministry is asking them to do. But they're not looking forward to improve what their staff is doing inside the class. So, is this a bad thing? No, it is not. We have to do what we have to do. We can't be principals, directors, coordinators without doing what the ministry asks us to do. So let's get this evaluation process and make this become an opportunity for reflection. And this is a key word of today's presentation. Reflection and learning, which is the other key word. Reflection and learning. You need to make your teachers reflect on what they're working on. You do not need to impose anything. You need to make them, okay, this is what we have, how and why. Of course, how do we do this? By weaving mandating procedures in a more reflective process, and of course, coordinating a parallel process of supporting feedback for growth. Feedback. If I'm going to do an evaluation of my teachers, they need feedback. Otherwise, just don't do it. But feedback, we're talking about deeper feedback, something that makes them aware of what they're doing, not things you need, that were fine or perfect, and things you need to improve. So you don't put there, this is what you're not doing right. Okay, you need to improve this, which is a synonym for the other thing. And what do you get from that? Okay? That's as a judge. Now, as a team captain, well, a lot of leaders think that being a team captain is great. It has its pros and cons. Well, first, strive to advocate for teachers. Strive to be advocates for teachers. The team captain ends up being an advocate for teachers with other people over him by asking things they need or things. Well, some of these things are good, but these could also actually bring you or lead you to it's also based, and it's rely on charisma and connection. Of course, to be a captain, you need to have this. They tend to be popular with teachers. Which are the risks? And this is the part that comes from the first one. It can lead to complacency. It can actually bring a culture of mediocrity, because now you're not focused on the real goal, which is taking the school to a different level. You're just focused on doing what the teachers believe is good. It could be good for them, but it could not be aligned to the goals of the institution. So we need to balance this into a careful pacing, explanation, encouragement, and reassurance that can lead teachers to reflective, substantive, professional learning. Reflection, again. Coaches. What are coaches? First, who has an idea of what coaching is? What is coaching? Please? Who wants to say? Please. Thank you. They're going to give you the mic so everyone can listen to you. Thank you. What's your name, please?
Carmen.
Carmen.
Yes. Have people reflections, because I think that these people want to reach an objective, right? So to coach these people means to have a reflection about their goals, and so take them from from where they are to where they want to be.
Yeah, well, Carmen has given a very good explanation about coaching. Has anyone seen a coach in action here in this room? Has somebody seen a coach working with a teacher or a director in action? No, never? You have? What have you seen? Please, the mic. Your name, please?
Hi, my name is Patricio.
Patricio, please.
Yes, our school hired a coach. So the person who was in charge of this course, he was coaching us, the coordinators and directors, to be better in our job. And we had different sessions in which we understood what we had to do with the capabilities we had, with the abilities, the skills we had, and how to improve them and take them to the level that the school was expecting us to work with.
Did the coach speak a lot?
No, the coach didn't speak a lot. He just showed us some like a presentation that you are showing, and make us talk a lot.
Thank you very much. Patricio, right? Yes, Patricio. And that's actually, if you see a coach in action, it's just that. It's a person that will ask you a couple of questions and that is going to make you reflect on something.
He doesn't tell us what to do. He doesn't give you a rest. He just asks you, motivates you, and makes you to think on what is necessary.
Reflection. Okay? Reflection. So he comes and asks, what is the question? Or what was the question? And then it starts guiding you or leading you into bringing answers. One of the best characteristics of a coach is to be a good listener. Okay? A good listener. They do not speak. And we're going to see later what is the acronym of the characteristics of a coach. Okay? But I wanted you to have a clear idea. Normally when you see coaches in action, it's just two people sitting. It could be with a group, but normally it's one-on-one. And this person begins like, okay, what's your problem? Okay, well, let's go to something basic. I need to present a research. I need to give my an office presentation on Friday, and I don't have time. Okay, why don't you have time? Oh, because tomorrow, it's Tuesday. Tomorrow, Wednesday, I am going to do this, and that, and on Thursday, I will have to do this, and that, and then on Friday, I just have 2 hours in the morning to try to do it. I don't have time. Okay, what are the options that you have in order to do that? And then the person will say, okay, I think that I could do this, and in the other day I could do this other activity, or it could probably be like that. Okay, which of those three options that you have given me do you believe is the best? And then you say, well, I think this will probably work. Okay, you think that will work? Why? And that's it. That's what a coach does, a business coach, okay, for administrators. But it actually, this is a term, coaching is a term that was born in business administration, and that it was taken to education because it has worked in business for a lot of years. It's not something invented last year. This has been in the market for more than 20 years, and it works. Why can't we use it for education? Why can we as leaders show off all our degrees in front of teachers and tell them what they need to do based on what I think is right, not based on what they think could be the result, the final result, or the best result for what they're doing? And that's coaching. So, in education, here comes a different thing. You balance high expectations with robust support. You do not focus only on high expectations, what your teacher should do. They need to have a 75% or whatever they're doing. 0 absentees, 0 lateness, blah, 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 blah. No. Besides that, the role as learning leaders is to direct resources your resources to areas sensible to quality of student learning. Okay? Visit classrooms. We're going to talk about each of these later on. Okay? Visit classrooms. Offer non-judgmental feedback. Provide time and training. High quality instructional coaching. Instructional coaching is one of the best ways. The problem is when we just pay somebody to do the coaching, but we as leaders don't do anything. Without, of course, neglecting the evaluative role. Sorry, I saw some people doing. Remember that at the beginning I showed you guys the QR code, the código QR. With that, you just use the app and you can go directly to COPEI's webpage and then download the whole presentation for you to have, okay?
Will you show this code again?
Yes, I will show the code at the end, okay? You can come closer and just, scan it. So, we need, and this is the part in which we're going to transform ourselves from being a normal leader or transforming leader or instructional leader into a learning leader when you put on your coach hat. So we need to reframe the questions. How can I do a better job of monitoring teaching? By sending supervisors to see what they're doing in classes? By sending other coordinators to do it? How can we collectively do a better job of monitoring student learning? These are questions we need to ask ourselves if we are leaders. And as most of you guys are not leaders yet, I mean educational leaders because you're leaders inside your classrooms, comes what the first steps into putting on your coach hat. And this is step number 1. And the most important one, get out of your office and walk into classrooms. And we're going to talk about all the pros and cons about this. I'm also an education leader. An institution I'm working right now, it's an institution that I've been there for a year and a couple of months. This is a 19-year-old institution that someday had around 9,000 students to be an English academy that mostly had high school students was really good. In Guayaquil, it's a very good number. When I arrived at this institution, and I received the institution from the previous director, I received it with more than $200,000 in losses. Numbers going down, I received the institution around 2,700 students. And it was going down the cliff. This is an institution that is supported by one of the best universities in Ecuador, the Polytechnic University. So it's a huge franchise and brand to support anything you want to do. And the institution was going down the cliff. We needed to haven't had the chance yet to work on coaching with my teachers, but I started working on coaching with the administrative staff. So after a year, we had our program getting accredited by the ministry with an institution called CETEC. We were the first institution in Ecuador as a language center to become accredited by CETEC with the new format of accreditation. So we had to create a new program. Then we improved our numbers. We went up to 4,100. We started improving the image of the institution, and it moved from being forgotten by the competence and by other English academies to being the target of what we were doing. Marketing speaking, programming speaking, and they were Well, this is called, in marketing, let me remember the word, benchmarking. They start calling people from inside the institution asking how do we pass the accreditation by CETEC. Some of them even thought we paid the government for them to give us the accreditation, but it was just hard work from the people I had. And it was not that I sat there to do the work. It's actually the people and the staff, my academic team and my coordinating team. I have 5 coordinators. And everyone was doing the same thing. They were based on the general program. So I start giving everyone a chance of proving something in a different area. And then I settled them on their positions instead of bringing people that I trusted, because I had a lot of people who could have come to this institution to work there and do also a great job. But I gave everyone a chance of proving that they were worth it. And they did. By leading them, because they began this process of disaccreditation before I arrived, but nothing had happened, and basically by leading them into doing what they had to do, because I was not the one who did it, they did it, we got accredited. We just went to a congress that was a success in Guayaquil. We had around 40-something presenters from more than 9 nationalities. And we had a lot of people going. We had people from Bolivia coming to Ecuador not to present, to listen to be part of the Congress. And we also had Peruvians, a lot of Peruvians going to our Congress. That was really good. It was the first time that we had people from other countries paying to come listen to our Congress. So we did a lot of things, and a little bit of coaching helped the staff to achieve the goals they achieved. But it takes time. This is not something tomorrow I'm gonna coach as a leader and it's gonna happen the day after. No. I have 1 year and 2 months already in COPEI, and I haven't had the chance of going inside and coach teachers. I have been going around, I have gone inside to listen to what they're doing, but I have not had the chance of doing direct coaching. So get out of your office and walk into classrooms. Develop a classroom visitation report. Okay? And I know principals and directors are gonna say, okay, but we have a lot of work. When am I gonna do this? I have to solve discipline problems, I have to solve teachers' problems, I have to solve district problems, and blah, 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 blah. I have meetings of a whole bunch of things. In what moment am I gonna do this? Well, get your agenda. I'm gonna give you some tips and techniques to do it, but you can do it. Visiting classrooms require planning and discipline. Get a secretary, get a very good assistant that can actually help you plan your day. Classroom visits, feedback, and conversation should be informal and non-judgmental. As leaders, you need to fulfill those 2 or 1 or 3 evaluations the government asks you to do. But as real coaches, as people who want to transform education, real leaders, you need to go inside those classrooms anytime you can. Okay? And of course, those evaluations cannot be judgmental. It means you go in there not to tell teachers you're doing this right or you're doing this wrong. There was an example that I really liked. This principal went into this classroom, saw a teacher. She was amazing in writing. This was a 4th grade classroom. And these kids were doing a very good job. Everything on paper. So the coach came in and said, okay, this is a great teacher, but their work is only inside the class. Nobody knows what she's doing. Nobody knows what these kids are doing, and they're doing a great job because she's not using technology. But since he has been inside other classrooms, he saw another teacher that was using blocks to post what the students were doing. So he came to the teacher and said, "You're doing an amazing job. Why don't you go to, I'm gonna make up the name, Mary's or Carlos' class and observe what he's doing. And then tell me what you think." Carlos was a teacher that was also doing a good job, but he was posting what all his students were doing. And that motivated students to do different things. It ended up improving the teacher's performance inside class, not only inside class, but in the whole school. It gave a different image of those students to everyone else, to parents, to authorities. It became a success. These type of things are the ones that you need to do when you go into classrooms. It's not to come and say, okay, I think you stood up there and did not move the way I like you to move. Oh, you did not put there the objectives on the board. It's guiding them into doing things they will feel good at the end. Make clear that your goals is not to evaluate, but to reflect on the teaching, learning happening in their classrooms and offer what? Feedback to facilitate their professional learning. Some of these principals that have been working on this have actually designed a hat that says coach. And when they go inside their classrooms as coach, they put it on. As simple as that. When teachers see them going in with the coach hat, they know they're going to receive coaching. And they know that the principal is there because he wants them to improve as professionals, as human beings, and as leaders. And not only teachers, but students. If students get to see their principals inside their classrooms more often, you will have less people waiting for you to solve disciplinary problems in your office. It's just a chain of events. Of course, it's not simple, as I said. It takes time, but we can do it. Start visiting classrooms of your new teachers and positive ones. They will spread the word. Yeah, one strategy is that. Because this is not easy, okay? Teachers, it's not easy to go inside the class. I used to work at Yachay Tech, one of these new universities in Ecuador, okay? It's a research university. And the director of the English department, PhD, Jason Litzenberg, he implemented a peer coaching strategy for class observations. The peer coaching format had no value in points or for real end of the semester evaluation. It was just a matter of sharing. And can you believe that most of these American teachers love the way Ecuadorian teachers manage the grammar issues? And of course, I learned, and I don't feel ashamed of saying it, but in a year in Yachay Tech, I gathered and learned a lot of the strategies and gathered more information that I have had get together in more than 15 years of work. 1 year. By doing peer coaching inside class. What we used to do is we had a Dropbox. So every level had a coordinator that was in charge of the teachers. So what happened was that we had already the core done for what we were teaching, and then all of a sudden everyone started putting information for the class. When you open Dropbox, even if you haven't even touched your book, you had over 25 exercises for the same thing. 3 videos, 4 PowerPoints, flashcards, PDFs, whatever you can imagine. At the beginning, it was difficult for me to share my PowerPoints that I have made over 20 years of teaching. As Latin Americans, it's difficult. But I saw these guys. We had British, one teacher from Cameroon. We had Americans. We're all over the world. We're teaching English at Jachara Tech. And these guys have no problems on sharing information. And they was like, okay, I had a bad day, I had an accident or somebody was sick. I arrived to class, everything was there. So in a moment, I started putting a lot of information too. And then they came to your class and said, the PowerPoint you put about this topic in grammar, my God, that was a really good one. I'm American. And I did not know that rule. And that was the way we worked. And we took the program to a different levels. Our students were finishing the 6 levels on a C1 basis. So, start visiting those classrooms. I have put here an example. This is a real example of a principal going inside and telling the teacher what he's doing as a coach, or what she's doing as a coach.
An instructional coach's role is to improve instruction, and I don't see my role any differently. I just also happen to have many other duties to fulfill as well. I recognize that when I come in your classroom and send you an email or talk to you afterward, it may make you feel nervous or worried, which is not my intent. When I come into classrooms for informal class visits, I am coming with the coach's hat on, so to speak. I may pose a question to you that stretches your thinking and that is not meant to be intrusive or evaluative, but to help you reflect on why you do what you do. When you are reflective and aware of why you do what you do, you will continue to utilize effective strategies for students in your classroom. So, my key message to you is that unless I specifically say I have a concern, then you have nothing to be concerned about. I'm just there wearing my coach's hat.
That's an example of how a principal addresses a teacher and tells his teacher what's her role when she goes inside with her coach hat. Okay? Reflection, non-judgmental, non-evaluative. As simple as that. Okay? You don't impose what you believe is the good part or what you think should be done. You just listen to them and have them reflect on their abilities. Obstacles, time. That's what we need, technology. We're going to see about technology in a little moment. I was checking the time, and this is a topic that needs a lot of time to work on. But at least I'm trying to give you guys some ideas on what is this. Dealing with student discipline issues. But as I told you, it's a chain of events. If you start going into classes, students start looking at you inside the classes, it's going to be reduced in a big amount. At the end of the day, and this is the biggest problem, the education leader is still the evaluator. Okay? Because in some moment, you're going to go into that class without your coach hat. But once teachers know that your intentions are good because you're trying to reach the institutional goals, this is going to be easier as time goes on. Building successful coaching relationships. And school culture. This is a complex amalgam of what? 2 things. Influences and factors. Influences, teachers, students, the district office, and factors, we have them there. And these 2 cannot be controlled by leaders. It cannot be controlled by me, cannot be controlled by anyone in this office, unless you're the Minister of Education. But even the Minister of Education has to follow what the President says. So, it's not in our hands. Educational leaders have influence in developing positive, productive relationship with teachers. And I love this phrase and statement from Megan Moran in 2004. She defines trust. There's a lot of definitions about trust. And coaching is about this. This is the key word also on coaching, trust. Is one's willingness to be vulnerable to another based on the confidence that the other is benevolent, honest, open, reliable, and competent? Trust is based on these characteristics. If they see in a leader these characteristics, they will trust. As simple as that. Why are we talking about trust? Remember I talked to you and I said we have an acronym about important characteristics or qualities that a leading coach should have. Well, remember the word HAT. These are the key relationship elements. And the first one, humility. You shouldn't go into the class as a coach and say, in my case, I have 5 degrees and going on for my 6th one on bilingual. I'm doing another master's in bilingual education and hopefully I'll go for my PhD. But you don't go into the class doing that. Okay? Because as I gave you the example of coaching, when the coach goes inside, he never says things. He just asks questions. And it's you, the one, that looks for a solution. And as I said before, I don't feel bad for being humble and said that in over 15 years of teaching by myself, I didn't achieve those goals that I did in 1 year in teaching with teachers all over the world. I don't feel bad for that. And it's good. Humility is the first one. The next one, action. If you don't put on your running shoes to jog or to run, okay, I need to reduce weight. Yeah, sure, of course. Stop eating. Go to the gym. Go do this. Go do that. Yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to buy the shoes. Yeah, I bought the shoes. Really nice shoes for running. Nothing. You buy the bicycle, the one that you have stationary bicycle inside the house. What are they used for? To put the clothes on. My sister bought one of those, and now she's, changing it for whatever you want. Give me whatever you have, and I'll give it to you. Because she used to say, to put on clothes on it. So, action. You need to do it. We have tech right now. We can arrange our agendas. There's something really good called Evernote. It's fantastic. You can link that to your assistant, and she will get all the appointments you have. Use Google Calendar. It's also a very good tool. We're going to see that in a moment. But action, and then definitely the most important one, trust. If they don't trust you, if they think you're not the real deal, they're not going to follow you. Create an environment in which teachers can experience both vulnerability and possibility. Be open to discover. You need to discover. I have been a teacher for now 22 years. I have been leading institutions for around 10 years. Different ones. Preschool, school, high school. In the university, I lead it, part of the curriculum. And now I'm leading an English academy. But I still think that I need to learn a lot. Giving feedback to increase effectiveness, which is one of the most important things about coaching. Basically, feedback is information about how we're doing in our efforts to reach a goal. This is said by Grant Wiggins. Do not expect to be an expert. You could be an expert, but don't expect to be an expert, because you will always learn something new. I have. And that's why I haven't stopped teaching. I began a course at the university teaching teachers. Okay, I'm teaching teachers right now on Saturdays. And I always learn something. Provide teachers with objective evidence, like the example that I gave you about this principal that send the teacher to another teacher's class. Practice more listening than speaking. Basic characteristic of a coach. Listener, not a speaker. Time. Managing your most precious resource. There's never enough time to do everything, but there's always enough time to do the most important thing. And here comes something that cost me a lot. Principals must become efficient at managing time, setting classroom and teacher dialogue time as priorities or big rocks. This is an example. What happens if you want to put rocks into a jar, a glass jar? Do you start by putting the small ones? Or do you start by putting the big ones and then the middle ones, the middle-sized ones, and then the small ones in order to put the biggest amount of rocks? What do you think? What do you put first, the big ones or the small ones? The big ones. So, set priorities. These are called big rocks. And those big rocks are the ones that need to be in your calendar. Manage your schedule with the assistance of your secretary or a digital calendar. Use Evernote. It's on iOS. It's on the Google App Store. Download it. There's a free version that you don't need to, pay a lot. If you want to have the whole thing, it's not expensive, but you will have all the different characteristics, and everything that you put in there will directly go to the people that you want them to see. So your assistant will get all the information, everything that you write there, any appointment, anything that you need, a big rock that you have, so you might probably forget, put it there, she'll receive it, she'll arrange it. Changing an open door, this is something that cost me a lot. Changing the open door policy to an out and about policy, because I believe in open doors, which I still have. But you cannot have your doors open every time, because one of the problems is teachers come to talk about things that they believe are important, but are probably important for that specific moment in that specific classroom. But these little details that he had with a conversation with the parent took you 2 hours. And then you have to postpone another thing, and then the chain of events again. So change that. Providing teachers with feedback on classroom management to help cure student discipline issues that are better dealt by teachers. Go into those classrooms that have more disciplinary problems. Work on coaching with those teachers that are having problems with discipline inside the class. It's gonna be easier than receiving all those students that start going to your office because of the disciplinary issues. Scheduling office time for the necessary task you must complete. Go back to the tickler file. Do you know what a tickler file is? This set of folders that you put in alphabetical order, and then you start putting what you have to do every day in there, and that's a ticker file. We have apps today that work like one of those ticker files that teachers used to use back in the 80s. So you can do that today. If you finish the activities, you just click on it, and that's it. Evernote, when you use Evernote and you put all the things that you are going to talk about in a meeting, it has you can set little squares in which once you talked about that topic, click on it, and that's it. It gives a check mark. It means you did it. And then just go to the other one, and then the other one, and then the other one. And if you didn't finish for the next meeting, you will reach that point that was left for the next one. And all that information will be, your secretary or assistant will receive it. Protecting yourself from future burnout by not letting your job consume all of your personal and family time. This is something we need to do. If you organize yourself, if you plan yourself, if you have the people that can help you lead the institution, if you have a coaching team culture inside your institution, basically, you can do it. But don't take family time to do work that you did not do because your time was not planned in advance. Here are some of the apps I was talking about. Evernote is this. This is Google Calendar. And remember, the Milk is also a very good app that can help you achieve many goals. I'm going to try to go a little bit faster because I know I'm running out of time. Might there be another way? Only 7% of US teachers say their school has a strong collaborative model, and more than 50% claim never to have seen a colleague teach. Can you believe these numbers? And I'm pretty sure if I ask right now here, some of you guys have never gone into a colleagues class to do peer coaching. So, faculty room becomes spaces of bitter lament. Policies, initiatives, working conditions, salaries, administrators and other teachers are the sources of upset and the targets of complaint. And that's the reality. New teachers find themselves feeling unappreciated, professional isolated, and overwhelmed. They go into a teacher's lunch, and it seems that everyone there is complaining. They come with all these high expectations and initiatives, and they want to change and transform the world, and then boom. The best way to counteract alienation and burnout is to transform your institution into a team. And how do you do that? Well, the first concerns you to doing a team is logistics. How are we going to do it? In what moment I'm going to go out of the class? In this study that I'm talking about, a lot of principals have even gone there and covered for those teachers to let them go and see other teachers teach. Workload. Oh, we have a lot of work. In what moment are we going to be doing these class observations? Professional autonomy. It's difficult to have somebody. At the beginning, it was difficult for me to see my gringo friends coming into my class to observe because they are native speakers. Oh, come on, they're native speakers. They're great. They're going to come into my class and they're going to start talking bad things about me. It was the opposite. Until I got used to that, it took me a little time, but it was worth it. What are the antidotes for this? Kindness, respect, commitment to support one another, nurturing a culture of openness and non-judgmental consideration of areas to improve. Transforming your school into a team has basic approaches to teacher classroom visits. I'm going to go faster because time is running out. Visiting other schools. Well, these are some strategies that you can use. I don't know if we have been doing this in Latin America, but in the States, some institutions are doing. If you cannot do it inside your institution because of logistics, some principals are sending their teachers to other institutions in agreements to go to another institution to observe teachers. Of course, it's not that easy because if being in the same institution and going into a friend's class is difficult, now imagine going to a different institution with people you do not know. But they're doing this. Okay? Beginning with interested teachers, the best ones that you have. Begin with them. These classroom visits, go on with them. Also, with you can do it on 1 grade level team, 4th grade, all the 4th grade teachers, all the 8th grade teachers, school-wide implementation with preparation. These, if you want to implement it in the school, everyone needs to be prepared. This is not simple, but the whole school needs to have set a goal in order to do it. Options to meet these teachers and school needs, peer coaching, I've talked about that. Instructional rounds or learning walks, which we make these rounds in which people have to work over getting the final solution for a problem. Lesson study. these are some of the strategies that we can use, and these are some of the ideas that I want to bring to you today. The first one, supporting teachers' professional growth is the most effective way to improve the quality of our schools. It's the only way. Building on teachers' strengths and helping them gain skill in areas of weakness are among the most powerful roles of educational leaders. If the teacher does not improve, and this is the last, it happens also, we owe it to our students, decide whether he or she should be retained. Coaching and professional collaboration form the link that connects great leadership, great teaching, and great learning. Why do we have to wait until first world countries or other institutions in other parts of the world sends all the results about this? If they're doing it right now and there's people already sharing this information because of technology, well, let's do it right now. Let's try it right now. Let's not wait for 5 years, 6 years, and then start talking about coaching as leaders. And when this movement has already passed, it's time. Let's listen to this guy about coaching as leaders, and with this, we will finish.
Learning from a great leader. In my role as an executive coach, I have a very unusual way of coaching. I don't get paid to.
Can someone help me with the volume, please? A little bit higher. I think the console is there. Because it's at max here. Let me put it a little more.
Learning from a great leader. In my role as an executive coach, I have a very unusual way of coaching. I don't get paid if my clients don't get better. Better's not judged by me. Better's not judged by my client. Better's judged by everyone else. This is a great way to test if someone actually believes what they're saying. You can ask a person one question and instantly determine their level of belief. And it's a very simple question. It always works. What is that simple question? Do you want to bet on it? If they say, I believe it, but I don't want to bet on it, you know what you just learned? They don't really believe it. If they say, here's the money, they believe it. Now, this is something I bet on every time. This is something I believe in. It's something that works. Now, when you get paid for results, you learn a little humility. The client I coached that I spent the most amount of time with did not improve at all, and I did not get paid. The client I spent the least amount of time with improved more than anyone I ever coached. 200 people probably got better, and I did get paid. And he was fantastic to start with. Very humbling experience. Well, I made a chart. On one dimension, it said, time spent with Marshall Goldsmith. The other dimension, improvement. There seemed to be a clear negative correlation between spending time with me and getting better. I thought, that's a troubling chart. Now, I don't talk to my client who improved the most, who I spent the least amount of time with, who's fantastic to start with. His name is Alan Pollock. Alan is now the CEO of the Ford Motor Company, CEO of the Year in the United States. Fortune magazine just said he was #3 leader in the world. He ranked only behind the Pope and Angela Merkel. So Alan is a pretty fantastic leader, and he's also just a great human being. So I got to talk to Alan. I said, Alan, of all the people I've coached, you improved the most. I've spent the least amount of time with you. And you were great to start with. What should I learn about coaching from you? Otherwise, I'm sitting there thinking about my chart, and I was thinking, that guy never met me. The way this chart looks, he'd really be good. Well, I asked Alan, what should I learn about coaching from you? He taught me 2 great lessons I would share with you. He said, Marshall, lesson number 1, your biggest challenge as a coach is picking great customers. If you pick great customers, your coaching process is always going to work. And if you pick the wrong customer, your coaching process is never going to work. Work with great people. Pick great customers. And he said, number 2, don't make the coaching process about yourself and your own ego and how smart you are. Make it about those great people you work with, how proud you are of them and how hard they work. Then he said, my job isn't that different as the CEO of this company. He said, I don't build these cars, and I don't design the cars, I don't sell the cars. I gotta have great people there for to help me. They're the ones doing the work. And he said, every day when I drive to work, I tell myself, leadership is not about me. Leadership is about them. Well, these are some great learning points from a very, very great leader. And you know what? That applies in so much of our lives. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. Most of us never deeply understand these points. Have you ever attempted to change the behavior of a successful adult that has
Okay.
Have you ever attempted to change the behavior of a husband, wife, or partner that had no interest in changing? And how's that working out for you? How's this one? Have you ever attempted to change the behavior of mommy or daddy who had no interest in changing? I was teaching my class at Dartmouth, and a woman raised her hand. I said, who are you trying to change, mommy or daddy? She said, daddy. I said, what's old daddy's problem? She said, he does not have a healthy lifestyle. I said, how old is daddy? She said, 94 years old. I said, leave the old boy alone. I'm going to teach you a great lesson now for being a great coach. What is that lesson? In terms of coaching adults, if they do not care, do not waste your time. If they do not care, do not waste your time. How much of our lives have been wasted trying to change the behavior of adults that do not care? And what is our return on that investment? Now I'm going to give you a great lesson for developing yourself as a leader. What is that great lesson? If you do not care, do not waste your time. If you're going to get better at anything, motivation for improvement is going to come from one and only one place. Where would that be? In your heart. If it doesn't come from in here, you won't do it anyway. So in terms of coaching others, if they don't care, don't waste your time. In terms of coaching yourself, developing yourself as a leader, if you don't care, don't waste your time. The essence of being a great coach, pick the right customers, work with great people, work with people that care, and make sure that you realize your success is not a function of you. Your success is more a function of them.
As simple as that. It has to come from here. If they don't care, don't waste your time. Okay? So, if your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader. But there's no big difference between leading and being a teacher. So why don't we change this into, if your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a teacher. And you will never forget that part, because you will always be a teacher. I really hope that these ideas, this, as I said, is something that takes a lot of time, but I really hope these ideas have helped you at least a little to open your eyes into something that other people are doing right now. Coaching as leaders. And it's basically that. Principals can become lead learners, supporting teachers to be more effective, both as individual professionals and as members of a team of educators functioning collaboratively for the benefit of all students. These are some of the references. And where is it? This is the book that I based this presentation on. Okay? You can find it on physical edition or download it on, buy it on Amazon and download it to your Kindle. Thank you very much. That's all. I really hope